following is a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Interbanks Media. Welcome to All Things Money with David Blain, a thoughtful and revealing discussion of actionable ideas and effective strategies to help you through the complex world of investing, taxes, and real estate. Now, with All Things Money, here's David Blain.
Hello and welcome to All Things Money. I'm your host, David Blain. Thank you for joining us today. Broadcasting on 94.1 FM WNBU as well as cable TV 10 in New Bern. We also have copies of these shows on our website, www.dlblain.com. Head on over there. You'll find information about myself, my firm, as well as copies of the show. There's also a contact button there. If you have any comments or questions on the show, you want to get in touch with me, just hit the contact button and let us know what thoughts are on your mind. You can also email us directly at allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. And of course, you can also give us a call, and the phone number is 252-633-0107. I thought I'd start the show off today with a piece about lobbying. And you may say, well, what does lobbying have to do with finance? Well, as it turns out, it has a lot to do with finance. Several months ago, we talked about a study that had been done and shows how Congress members' rate of return on their portfolios is much higher than the average person, presumably because of the inside information that they get, especially during the financial crisis. Some of the congressmen and senators that were in on some of the discussions with the Treasury Department and things like that were able to profit enormously. And I don't think there's any question about that. This particular article that just came out today, the headline, "Lobbying Works. Big spenders reap big stock gains." And this goes to the point of the too much power in the government, too much power in the lobbyists who run a lot of what we do. And we've got to get control of this. You've heard the saying, follow the money, and that simple phrase, if you remember that, it helps you understand a lot of what goes on in the world. So this company, Strategist Research Partners, has been tracking lobbying spending. And what they do is they take the 50 companies that spend the most money on lobbying expense as a percentage of their total assets. So if they have, $1 billion and they spend $5 million on lobbying versus a company that has $1 billion in assets and spends $100,000, well, that company, so they take the 50 largest ones that spend it and they track the investment return of the stocks of those companies. And so this, what they call the lobbying index, has beaten the S&P 500 now for 12 years in a row. So it's outpaced the broader market average for 12 years in a row. Now here's the catch. They don't release the names of the 50 largest companies, so you can't go out and invest in it. But with a little detective work, you could probably figure it out on your own. Or so part of the point of this is to say that trying to pick individual companies based on, fundamentals and their earnings and this kind of thing is very difficult to do when you have, Congress people trading on inside information. You have lobbyists in there. They know what they're lobbying for, and they're able to push government regulation in a direction that is good for their stock price. Jason Trennert, managing partner, says it's almost in the statistically hard to believe category. Remarkably, it seems to work. The companies that spend more tend to outperform, that he says. And the 50 biggest spenders typically include many defense names, big government contractors, things like that, include firms in heavily regulated industries such as pharmaceuticals, healthcare, things like that. And it just goes to point that the government is way too big a part of our economy, and the influence that these lobbyists have on Congress, who then has a big influence on the economy, it's out of control today. And for the individual investor sitting at home thinking they're going to be analyzing, earnings and fundamentals of these companies and be able to outperform the averages is extremely, extremely difficult to do. and this has changed. You know, even 20 years ago when I first started investing, we used all individual securities. And I think that it was possible. But today, the flow of information and the undue influence that government officials and things like that have, it's extremely, extremely difficult. And in fact, most people will be very unsuccessful at it. I thought that was an interesting story that you can put in the back of your mind. Kind of along the same lines, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, you know, you've been doing this radio, TV show for many years now, but we never really hear about, you know, what you do very much, and that's on purpose. I want the show to be information that you can use on your own, whether you use an advisor or not. But I do think that one of the things I don't want to minimize is the value of an advisor, and I thought it would be useful to cover some of the things that we do. A lot of people don't understand what a true wealth planning firm like my own does, and they think it's all about, you know, getting some high rate of return. They think that somebody has the secret to get, you know, a rate of return of, you know, 20% a year, and these people will chase performance all around. They'll go to this advisor, that mutual fund, you know, that type of thing, or they think that there's some, you know, magic bullet that's going to take their $50,000 tax bill, you know, down to zero. So they go to some big expensive tax attorney or some CPA firm, and they think that their taxes are going to get, you know, wiped out completely. Well, these things are just not possible. The same thing with a good wealth planner is there is no magic solution to this. There are some extremely, extremely valuable things that we do that people may not completely understand. And the number one thing is just getting your financial affairs organized. I mean, you would not believe the number of people that come in and we say, hey, where are your investments? And they say, well, I've got a 401k over here and a Roth IRA over here, and I've got these stock certificates stuffed in my safety deposit box. And then a week later, they'll come back and they say, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I also have this stack of savings bonds, and I have this other account over here, and they just have stuff everywhere. I mean, it really is unbelievable. Same thing with, say, life insurance. You say, we had a client pass away last year, and when we did our data gathering meeting with him, he listed, like, this was years and years ago when he became a client, he listed like 1 or 2 insurance policies, modest insurance policies. We said, okay, well, you don't really need it, but he wanted to keep them, so we said, fine. So unfortunately, he passed away in November, and by the time we got through, there was about 17 insurance policies, and he didn't even remember that he had them. They were old, stuffed in a drawer. Fortunately, one of his family members was an insurance agent who had been selling him these policies all these years, is how we figured it out. Well, coming up on our first break, when we continue, I'll continue this discussion about some of the value that a good wealth planner can provide to you.